league pass rankings. We'll go 5-1 and we'll alternate. And we will, if you have a ranking, do you have them ranked?
I don't have them ranked. There's just teams that I'm going to watch.
Okay, cool. So I don't have to go in a ranking order either. But I'll say this: one of mine is probably not going to be a playoff team.
Okay,
The others I expect them to be all in the playoffs. So what's the first team for you?
Indiana.
We agree on one.
I love how the Pacers play. I do not think they're a flash in the pan like Atlanta was a few years ago. I think Indiana is legit. There's a team that legitimately goes 10 deep. They play what we call blur ball. Everything is fast. They stack multiple actions. Halliburton's amazing. Nembhard is so good. Miles Turner, obviously Pascal, like they up and down. They just got guys. TJ McConnell was instrumental last year. Like Boston said this after their championship run. The hardest series was against the Indiana Pacers, even though it was a sweep. That was the hardest series, the team that taxed us the most. I just love this young team. Now, I do have a concern. And one concern is Mr. Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
My guy, listen, he's never going to be anybody's all defensive like that. That's not, and I don't need you to be that. I need you to not be a turnstile though on defense, excuse me. Just be a net neutral. That's all. Just don't crush us on defense at point of attack. And I do worry about him possibly lifestyle a little bit. Like, does he enjoy being a little, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but does he enjoy being a wealthy young man a little too much? Like, I'm not saying that for sure. Look, this league is fucking hard, okay? It is so hard to be consistently good and win in this league. And the best players in this league of this era, they ain't about that, man. They about one thing and one thing only, and that's ball and being as good as they possibly can at that. Does Tyrese have that level of discipline required to be? Because listen, from October to January last year, this was all NBA first team. Like, he was crushing. Then he got hurt, and the injuries also worried me with hamstrings and lower leg injuries. Like, that worries me. So that's my only concern. But Indiana's one of my teams.
Also played in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Listen. I'll just refrain from the jokey jokes because damn, they're here. I'll just say, like, man, we know what categories he probably enjoys on certain sites more than others. I think Tyrese Halliburton though is sensational. I think he's a sneaky, like, could he get on an MVP ballot type of dude also if he's healthy and plays the requisite games. And Indiana's humming at the rate that they could be. Like, I think they're one of the better coach teams in the league also. Like,
sure are.
Rick Carlisle, and also continuity. Like, you're bringing back
everybody
who was on this team last year that went on that run. Now, granted, I thought they'd lose in the first round, but the Bucks were banged up. I thought they'd lose in the second round, but the Knicks got banged up. But I agree with you that I don't think this is the Atlanta Hawks, who took advantage of a season where them and the Knicks that year had all this rest because they didn't go to the bubble and all these different things. Indiana, comparatively, they're ascending with more dudes. Tyrese Halliburton is basically entering his prime, maybe. And Andrew Nembhard, you mentioned him. Like, he's one of the players I'm highest on to make a jump this year. I think he should be taken more seriously than he has been. He's paid like they expect him to be somebody now, because he's getting like 20-ish million a year. So I'm very high on Andrew Nembhard and him being like a real dude in the league, so to speak. And also a full season of Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner being the anchor. We both agreed on Indiana. So I'll toss it back to you. Give me another one of your teams.
This will be a no surprise. The Memphis Grizzlies.
Okay, not on
Ja
my
Morant's
list.
Back. Look, you're adding an all NBA second team, dude. Like, I mean, like, everybody's like, oh, Memphis. I'm like, this was a 2 seed a few years ago. Like, what are we talking about? Like, and I mentioned about necessity being the mother of invention. Last year, when everybody was hurt, they were forced to play Vince Williams Jr. and Gigi Jackson a million minutes because they had nobody else. Oh, lo and behold, look what I found. Undrafted Vince Williams Jr. is actually an excellent player.
Yes.
Shock of all shocks, right?
Very good defensive player.
Right? And can shoot 40% from three. Like, hello. Like, now he is hurt to start the season. Hopefully he'll be back soon. But you got some guys on this team. And of course, with Desmond Bane, if he gets himself to all-star form, Triple J had to play a lot of lead offense last year. So if he can now bring himself back down to the number 2, number 3 option, he gets back to his defensive player of the year level. Like, this is an elite team. So I'm really looking forward to watch Memphis play this year.
I'm gonna go with a similarly chalky pick, more chalky than that actually. Oklahoma City. I mean, how could you not?
Yeah.
You know, I think this team could win 60 games. I think this
Mhm.
team could be the best team in the Western Conference,
Mhm.
and I think this team is not likely, but they're the best bet to come out of the Western Conference out of everybody in that conference. I think
We agree on them. Yep,
they
they're on my list.
yeah, okay, so they should be the favorites. I loved getting Isaiah Hartenstein. Now the number, it's a lot of money, but
they can afford it. They can eat it up. It's good for them.
right, it's just business wise, cap wise, it's fine because it's also short term. It makes sense. I think there's a team option on that deal as well, if I'm not mistaken. And then Alex Caruso's
Huge,
like the ultimate glue guy who like he's the white dude you always want on your team in the park. That's what Alex Caruso is. Like you want to hang out with him, you want to play ball with him because you know he's gonna defend like the annoying dude that scores on the other team, like Alex Caruso. You could sick him on that dude. Like Alex Caruso is also underrated playmaker. Like I've been saying this since he was in college. Like when he was at Texas A&M, he was a legitimately good playmaker who didn't score a ton. And he ends up going undrafted. I think he even played in Portsmouth in the Invitational. So it tells you like the sort of path that he got here too. Spent some time in the G League, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Like I just loved the Caruso, Isaiah Hartenstein pickups.
Huge.
And then ascending talents with SGA and Jalen Williams, who I think could be an all-star this year. Chet Holmgren, who also could potentially be an all-star this year. Like it's a really good team.
Alex Caruso is an estimated plus minus monster.
Yes.
He's all defensive guy. Like, again, so remember I said about Halliburton? Like, look, you ain't going to be Alex Caruso on defense, but here's a guy who shows you I am not your 25 point a game, 3-point step back, whatever, but he helps you win possessions. And folks, when we're trying to win championships, that's what you got to do. How many possessions are you going to win? Alex Caruso is so good at that. Dogged, like multiple efforts on defense, 40% 3-point shooter, playmaker, as Bryan said. So I love that pickup. Think about the Hartenstein thing, Bryan. It also got the Thunder to keep him away from everybody else who wanted him. So that's another part that people don't think about when teams make acquisitions. They're like, oh, interesting. Why'd they? Okay, he may fit, he may not, but he also is now not on anybody else who could potentially face them in the postseason, right? Like that's a huge piece. You mentioned Shea. Shea's already an MVP level candidate, right? All NBA first team last year. He finished top 5 in MVP voting, if I'm not mistaken.
2 straight years at this point,
right? So he's already there. If Jalen Williams becomes an all-star this year, which is, so we always talk about the hardest jumps to make in the NBA. The hardest is superstar, from all-star to superstar status. That is the hardest one to make. Second hardest is from starter to all-star, right? If he becomes an all-star this year, now you got an MVP and an all-star, and Chet is already kind of close to all-star-ish, right? So they might not need to do anything. If those two things happen, they can just stand pat with what they have.
Just extend them. Yeah.
Let's say those two things don't happen. Guess what the Thunder have? A shit ton of picks and a shit ton of cap space and the contracts with Hartenstein, thank you, and others to make a move to get disgruntled star from wherever and pair him now with Shea and whatever and do the thing. So this team is sitting pretty. They are a huge league pass team for me. They are my pick to come out of the Western Conference.
I'm going to name a team that I don't think you're going to have on your list. And that's going to be, and this is more of a curiosity thing, so I'm going to be watching them a lot, are the Denver Nuggets.
Bryan, we are mind melding. Well, and let me tell you why mine is first.
Yes, yeah.
I don't think Mike Malone is long for that job.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be out of here before people know it.
So I work with Matt Moore at Action Network, who obviously is in Colorado and has, goes to Nuggets games all the time, covers them. And yeah, he's told me enough to where I'm like, I really want to be watching that situation closely between coach, GM, and also the development of the guys. Like, all right, this is going to be a very important year for Nikola Jokic, not in terms of like the legacy, quote unquote.
He's already cemented with that.
But if there's something historic, if he like drags this team, because the perception now is like, this isn't the same, even though it's a lot of the same championship core, but they keep losing pieces, like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Bruce Brown, to a lesser extent, Jeff Green. But losing veterans isn't easy in the NBA. Just ask the young players. And with Nikola Jokic, it's like, all right, is he a walking 50 wins? where it doesn't matter
Mm.
and they can still get like a top 4 seed maybe or something along those lines, top 5 seed?
Mm-hmm.
Is it even more than that? What's I, there are a lot of Jamal Murray questions that people
Well,
have.
we can get into him if you want.
Like is he falling off, so to speak? Like he played bad, even not just the Olympics, but
He was
even
horrendous in the Olympics and terrible in the postseason last year.
terrible in the postseason that gets overlooked because of the game
Mm-hmm.
winning
Mm-hmm.
shots
Mm-hmm.
and things of that nature. But I have my questions, and also I love Julian Strawther's game. I was saying this before he got drafted, and it's not just because he's Puerto Rican, but I think I think this dude is a knockdown shooter. I think they're gonna have to rely on him more than he may potentially be ready for. But I think he's gonna be plug and play next to Nikola Jokic because of the shooting and the size. The Russell Westbrook piece is interesting as hell. I actually think there's a world where it works. I'm just not sure what that looks like. And then I sneaky think Michael Porter Jr. Could have like maybe his best season in terms of efficiency.
Well, that is a people who know me know that's my basketball love language, right? Tall dudes who can shoot.
Yeah,
And
and
so,
also he can rebound, like
right,
low key.
6'10", like my thing is, are you gonna approximate close to what I believe your potential ceiling is?
Okay, so you've had 4 off your list already.
Mm-hmm.
You've had OKC, you've had Denver, you've
Mm-hmm.
had Memphis,
Mm-hmm. In Indiana.
and Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
So I have OKC, Indiana, Denver. I will name one more here. I'm gonna save the fun one for last. I'm
Okay.
gonna go with the Cleveland
Ooh, I
Cavaliers.
like that pick. I was thinking about them.
I am very I might be more in on this team than I should be, but I'm very in on this team from a regular season standpoint. Now, Jarod and I were both covering the Nets when Kenny
Mm-hmm.
Atkinson was there. And I think this is a great fit because I've seen what he can do
Mm-hmm.
for big guys
Mm-hmm.
in this league. He was on the Atlanta Hawks staff, and Al Horford has credited him in the past with helping encourage him to shoot more 3-pointers. Brooke Lopez, the same thing. He gets to Brooklyn, and Brooke Lopez all of a sudden becomes the 3-and-D center and is not posting up a bunch of times per game. And
Right.
as a result, has extended his career
Right.
some years ever since, right? And also, like, it helps that he's a great defensive anchor, although the fall off is basically
It's
coming
real.
because
Yep.
yeah. Look, you're 17, 7
Mm-hmm.
feet tall. What are you gonna do? So with Kenny Atkinson, I think Donovan Mitchell could have a career year because with guards in his particular pace and space offense, they're going to have a lot of opportunities with the
Mm-hmm.
ball to score, to shoot a lot of threes. All of Kenny Atkinson's teams with the Nets shot a ton of threes. They shot a good amount of threes last year in Cleveland, but also they kind of had to jack up more threes when Evan Mobley missed time, Donovan Mitchell missed time. But I think Donovan Mitchell could have a big time season. I think Evan Mobley is going to have a career year. I'm not saying he's going to average 25. I don't think it's a huge scoring jump, but I do think he'll shoot more threes, so space the floor better. Maybe he gets to like 18 points a game or something along those lines. I think it'll look a little cleaner with him and Jarrett Allen as a result. Jarrett Allen also has some touch. I'd be curious to see if he shoots some threes because that's something that we were there for too, where Kenny
Mm-hmm.
Atkinson was like teasing that idea. It never happened at like a high clip, but there was an occasional Jarrett Allen 3
Mm-hmm.
here and there. Darius Garland's sort of been overlooked over the course of the trade rumors. And I think as a playmaker, he's going to have a fun time in this offense. They're missing Max Strus for a while, but I think that opens the door for one of Kenny Atkinson's favorites in Karis LeVert, who can
Yep.
come off the bench, 6 man of the year candidate,
Yep.
maybe close some games. Like people could say what they want about, could you have 3 ball handlers who aren't awesome at defense out on the floor at the same time? And I would say, listen, Kenny did this with D'Angelo Russell and Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yep.
And this is a better version of that. So
and if he has Mobley and Allen back there, right, to clean up some mistakes, then
better,
be all right.
a older, more seasoned post All-Star Jarrett Allen, and also what we think is a future All-Star in Evan Mobley.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this team could be really, really good. Their over-under was 47.5, I want to say. I took the over. It may have been 48.5, still took the over. I think this could be a 50-win team. And I think in the regular season, this could be a 2 seed. I like this Cleveland team very much.
I think you're dead on with them. And I think Kenny being there, I expect resurgence is the wrong word, but I expect a little more pep in the step from Jarrett Allen and Karis LeVert. Look, guys, NBA players are just like regular people. They respond well to environments where They have managers and people above them who they like a lot, who empower them, right? And Kenny and Jarod and Karis have a great relationship. Like from their Brooklyn days, I expect that to be a nice little reunion down there and over there in Cleveland.
We each have one team left.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's gonna be off the fucking wall, so you should go first.
Okay, mine's a little obvious because it's really about one player, and that's the Spurs. Because who doesn't want to watch Wemby on a regular basis? I mean, I do. So I'm curious to see what is the jump that he's going to make offensively. I expect that to be the part of his game that takes the longest to catch up to where his peak's going to be. But even if he makes marginal improvement, now remember, he started the year off shooting like 21% from three, and it got it up to like, I want to say low 30s, which means he had to shoot really well to get it that high by the end. So if he can be a better 3-point shooter, if he can recognize areas where he can capitalize on putbacks, tip dunks at the rim, and things like that, awesome. And then of course, the arrival of Chris Paul, someone who can actually throw him an entry pass, novel concept, and someone who understands the nuances of the pick and roll. Hey, Vic, think about angling your body this way, and then maybe like just little things like that. And he's such a sponge. I'm very curious to see what he looks like in year 2. He's already, by the way, in year 1, a plus player, EPM wise, a DPOY candidate. But metrically, he was the best defender in the league last year. You weren't going to give it to him because he's on a shit team, but that's the reality, right? And he's the overwhelming favorite to win DPOY this year. So we'll see.
I'm super curious about this team that I'm going to mention. They're the last team on my list, and they're a team that I've just talked myself into as I've stared at their roster.
Wait, are they in the Eastern Conference?
They're in the Eastern Conference.
Oh man, I have 2 guesses who I think it might be.
Okay, give me one guess.
It's either the Hornets or the Pistons.
The Charlotte Hornets.
I knew it. No, but you're right though. I know why you're going there. No, I like it. Go ahead.
I wrote about this. So spoiler alert for people who didn't see it, but I did write about why I feel like they're a little undervalued this season. Like there's always a team that makes a jump. There's multiple teams really a year, but there's always a team that makes a jump where we're like, oh, this team is further along than we expected. And to me, it starts with, and I'm not really a LaMelo Ball guy in terms of he's one of my favorite players or anything like that, but talent is off the charts. Like,
yes, clearly,
he just has it, right? But Charles Lee, if I told you that you're hiring a head coach who has the resume of winning 2 titles as an assistant, one with the Celtics and one with the Bucks, and was also on a staff with the Atlanta Hawks that has produced other head coaches under Mike Budenholzer. We've talked about Kenny Atkinson already, and Charles Lee was there for the 60-win team as well. Like, Charles Lee has been on some really good coaching staffs, and now is going to a Charlotte Hornets team who coincidentally hired Kenny Atkinson at one point, then he backed out of it, which in hindsight ended up being the right move. But Charlotte wants to be competitive, I think, now. That's been the messaging, at least, right? And I think they got the right coach with the right mindset. I think their talent level, like Brandon Miller's really good. If Victor Wembanyama wasn't a thing, didn't
exist,
right? Like Brandon Miller, we'd be talking about him like, yo, could he make an all-star jump now? Now, like he's really good. I don't know if people have seen him or whatever the case may be. I was
very good.
Like coming out of the draft, there was a lot of controversy. About about certain things that
for legitimate reasons, right? Like,
but like that team is not devoid of controversy. But like Brandon Miller is really good. LaMelo Ball, if he can stay healthy, which is one of the keys here. God, he is such a fun player to watch.
Oh man,
on offense,
so
just
exciting.
The playmaking, the scoring. I think he's going to play really well next to Brandon Miller. Want to see that from an extended period. They don't seem concerned about Mark Williams' injury, although it's starting to linger into the season, but they still believe he's going to be very good when he is healthy. He wasn't really healthy last year. We'll see about that. Nick Richards is a backup. I mean, you could do a lot worse. He was productive last year, if nothing else. Trey Mann coming off the bench is a sneaky, important thing there. And I think just looking at their team, and I was writing about this, like you have some role players who can help you win basketball games, which is important. Like, I don't think that Grant Williams is a lost cause. He was actually productive with Charlotte toward the end of last year, and I think he could become a winning player again. They could sneak into the play-in in this Eastern Conference. Yeah, they could get 35 wins, I feel like. That's sort of the number that I have in my head for them.